you notice that the activities, basically, list of activities is the one that we are going to do. The contractor is the one that will come up with the list of activities, and then duration, and then resources. When you calculate the resources, then you are going to generate so-called resource histogram. Okay, the resource histogram looks okay. The peak is there, the trough or the valley, and this resource histogram looks very nice. But there are situations where the peak and valley look very messy. In such a way, the workers will come and go. Will come and go very quickly in a so-called within short period of time. This is not good for the scheduling purposes, because people are being paid based on the work that they have. Unlike the professional like engineers. Engineers are being paid monthly, whereas workers will being paid based on the work. So, but we can basically, based on our scheduling, because we are the one that do this, we can modify this diagram to suit our what we call resource requirement, because we are the one that do the scheduling. So we should be able to basically come up with a better way of managing resources in order to optimize the utilization of resources. And then in terms of tracking, another way is basically to come up with the so-called budgeted cost for each activity. We can always calculate, because each of the activity require man, machine, material, and then profit. Profit is the one that not normally contractor will add up to the unit rate, okay, unit rate of work activities. So normally we are talking about when you give the work program to the client, because contractor work program might not be the same with the one that you submit to the client. When you submit to the client, actually it reflect the what we call contract cost, okay, the overall contract cost, because client would like to basically track the amount of work that you do based on the actual work progress. That's how client pay you. But what I want to show here, if you input resources into your scheduling, at the end of the day, you will be able to what we call S curve. This is what we call S curve. Simple S curve based on financial S curve. You see, this is what we call plan. And then later on, as the work progress, you notice that the dotted line, this is what we call actual. This is what we call plan. The thick line is the plan. This is the original schedule. But the actual might not go according to what we wish. That is the reality. When you do whatever project, big or small, anywhere in the world, regardless of how advanced is that country, you can do the project in USA, for instance, Japan, advanced nation. You can do project in Malaysia or even the third world country, but you are going to expect experiencing delays. That is the reality. The most important thing is how do you catch up? So that's what we call controlling. The dotted line is what we call monitoring. Monitoring is the process of gathering information in order for you to be able to plot the graph. If you do not do monitoring, then you simply cannot plot the graph. But having a graph alone is not going to be sufficient. If you just simply look at the graph every day, you are not going to basically rectify the problem. So you need to do something. The do something is what we call action. For instance, you come up with the strategy, how to catch up. If you are running late, then you, by right, you should work double. Put double up the effort, work extra time, put more machinery, put more men, and then use different technique of construction, etc., in order to catch up. And you notice, regardless of the actual progress, at the end of the day, planning should complete at the targeted or given period. Okay, because client want you to complete the project in 12 months, then you have to complete in 12 months. Well, unless the client give you extension of time, then it is okay. But client always happy that if you can complete within the time or even faster. But if you can complete faster, but then it will put pressure on your workforce and etc. Important aspect that need to be scheduled. Okay, what basically we want to schedule? We want to schedule activity start and then finish time. When the activity start and finish. So that's why the word scheduling normally reflect the timing of an activity, when it start, when it finish. Distribution of project cost. Okay, let's say activity earthwork require 100,000, maybe in 2 months. So what does that 2 month distribution of cost? Is it you distribute first month is 50,000 and second month is 50,000 or what? But in reality, the distribution of cost should reflect the real amount of work that you basically plan and do. It might not be a pro rate, but in the academic world or in calculation purposes, for the sake of exam or whatever, we normally prorate. What does prorate mean? 100,000 will you divide in 2 months. So meaning to say, first month would be 50,000, second month would be 50,000. But in reality, it will not be like that. But just for the sake of calculation, you do that. Okay, we do that because of otherwise we are not going to be able to generate what we call S curve at the beginning of the project. Allocation of resources. Okay, you calculate the project duration based on the resources that you thought that you are going to do. Okay, you thought that you are going uh, to do, or you have that resources, but then that resources have to be distributed in what we call in a smart manners. You do not want to bring in the equipment too early, too late, and then you bring in people as many as you want without considering the amount of work that you want to distribute to them. Sometimes you bring too many people, at the end of the day, everybody are looking at each other because there is no job for them for that day. So that's what we call planning. Okay, two phases of project schedule: master plan, and then what we call another one is basically detail. Okay, master plan. What is master plan is all about? Master plan normally in our scheduling, we only input major activities. Okay, let's say major activities could be site preparation, substructure, superstructure, external work, and then perhaps finishing. That could be major. But what inside the those major activities? That's what we call detail works. Well, the reason why we do have major work program and detail work program is basically for the purpose of reporting purposes, and then who is going to look at those major work program. If you are the boss or big director, CEO, COO, whatever things, you do not want, it is not necessary for you to know the detail of the work program. You only want to know when things are going to finish, etc., etc. So you are given might be a report which is basically not that detailed. But with regard to doing the real work, if you want to give to the supervisor, the foreman, or the workers, then basically detailed work program is necessary. Otherwise, they do not know what to do on that particular week, month, or even days. But we have to bear in mind, again, who is our reader. For instance, workers. If you want to give work program to workers, the schedule to the workers, you do not want to give the worker 1 week or even 1 month. Workers normally do not concern about whatever thing that happen in the future. What they are concerned is basically what is their work for today. That is enough for them. Their thinking is not like our thinking. We as engineer, whatever, we have a forward thinking in the bigger picture of the overall situation. Okay. All right. Then method of developing a project schedule in term of you can come up with a manual scheduling or using computer. Okay. In our class, we are going to learn in these few weeks, most of the time using manual scheduling, because you need to understand how to calculate those things manually first in order to understand the fundamental. Because if you use computer straight away, you know the computer is using the concept of GIGO. You know what is this thing? Garbage in, garbage out. You can input whatever thing inside the computer, and then the computer will give you output. So if you put rubbish into the computer, then you will get the output, rubbish output. But if you do not know, you will accept those things as output. You say, oh, okay, it looks nice, but then there could be mistake. How are you going to detect the mistake if you do not know the fundamental? That is our class. Our class, we do learn about fundamental first, and then at the end or whatever period that we have, even the second half of the semester, uh, if Professor Zaimi is around, he will basically teach some of the topic, and then you need to have the computer ready in front of you. Okay. By that time, your computer should be installed with a Microsoft project. You can install now. We do have the latest, the version 2019 easily available. We do have 2020 on the market already, but if you have 2016, 2013, 2019, that would be equivalent because the interface look the same. How to get the software? Okay, easily. You can download from the Microsoft, but it will give you only about 30 days of the trial. Then after that, it will block some of the features. The easy way to get the software is to go to Lazada. Lazada is going to have a big sale, 11/11, and then you can go to the Shopee to just simply buy the keys. Okay, so the seller will basically give the key or installer in the email. Well, with just 10 ringgit or whatever, and then you install the installer, and then you put into the keys. It should be running perfectly. Okay, that is a way to get the Microsoft project. Okay, all right. If you Google, okay, if you Google, there are a lot of scheduling software in the market. Maybe over 200 scheduling software. You see, so many. I just name a few. Okay, I just name a few. Well, if you want to do, okay. Okay, can you hear me? Because internet connection might be
Yeah,
problem.
Doctor, I'm hearing you.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes.
good, very good, very good. All right. Uh, over 200 software, scheduling software in the market. This is just example. Okay. And you notice there are two scheduling software that I mentioned here. Okay. For instance, the name is basically here, Microsoft and Primavera. Okay. Okay, there are so many software, but when you want to use the software, you have to bear in mind who would be the reader. Scheduling software is not like design software. Design software, if you are working with consultant doing design work, nobody is interested in the software that you use, especially contractor, because contractor have nothing to do with your design. Okay, unless you are using design and build contract. The client sometimes requests you to submit the design calculation, but sometimes client also do not know how to read those things. Okay, but they just simply ask. But when you use the scheduling software, you must remember who is going to read your file that you send to them. Remember, first client, second is consultant, third is you yourself, contractor, plus subcon, plus supplier. You see, even if there is a project management company, project management consultant, you see how many parties are interested to with your work program, because they need to know what is going on. They need to basically, especially supplier and subcontractor, when to come in. Okay, so you just simply send them a portion of the work program so they can be prepared. If you send them, you do not want to send them like PDF file, because they cannot click and open up different things with regard to resources, whatever thing that they wanted to see. So you might want to send the file itself. So in order to open up the file, you must have the software. So make sure everybody can read the software, meaning to say everybody basically need to understand the software itself. So it is better to use the popular software in that country. In Malaysia, for instance, people are well versed with Microsoft Project in Primavera, then you use that software. Okay. You notice that if you Google top 10 scheduling software in the market or in the internet, it will come up like this sheet. By now, I just Google. By now, this thing could change already. You see, it change every day. Yeah, because who basically use this scheduling software? Why it become top 10? Whereas this software is not even nobody know this software in Malaysia even. Why? Because simply because US normally do come out with all kind of software. Even Microsoft Project and Primavera originated from US. They invented those things, and that's why they can simply use that software because it is fit to their working environment perfectly. So when we wanted to use all this software, at the end of the day, we found it very difficult. Because why? Because our work environment simply do not fit. So that's why sometimes people start using software only at the beginning, or during the planning stage, but then during the tracking, they found it very difficult to fit in, because there could be some mismatch in terms of even cost with other thing. At the end of the day, they just simply abandon and just simply use Excel. You can use Excel, but just remember, if you are doing scheduling with regard to thousands and thousands of work activities, how exactly you are going to do the tracking? So you basically spend unnecessary time just basically looking at the computers, whereas the real work is happening at the construction site. Okay, people are waiting for you to make decision, and then you are in the office looking at the computer and trying to trace some of the issues which you simply cannot zoom in quickly. But when you use software, then basically software can give you some indicator very fast. Okay, that is the issue. And you notice that There are two commonly used software in Malaysian market, Microsoft Project and Primavera. We are going to learn using Microsoft Project, not the Primavera, because last time during old days, we do demonstrate Primavera, but the issue with Primavera, sometimes the even so-called the software is very expensive. You notice that, Microsoft Project, you buy original, the Microsoft Project standard could cost you around 2,500 ringgit, whereas the professional version could cost you around 5,000. And how about Primavera? Primavera costs you around 10 times more. You see, one piece of software for one user only. That's why the easiest part is basically to get whatever the cheap version, because we just simply want to, for the purpose of learning. Later on, if you are interested to become scheduler, then basically you need to go for courses. Okay, there are specific courses for Microsoft Project, Primavera. Then with working experience, then only you can be a good scheduler. And remember that people pay very high for scheduler nowadays anywhere in the world. If you compare the salary of simply site engineer and then scheduler or planner, always planner is the one that people is looking at. So, but not everybody can be a good planner, because sometimes people are interested in different things. But that is okay if you are interested. Maybe out of how many people in our class, maybe only one of them could, later on during their career, they will go into planning and scheduling, whereas the others might go into safety, another one will go into sustainability, another one could go into quality. So there are so many things, so many specific field in the construction management. So it depends on your interest. The differences between Microsoft Project and Primavera is basically the price, and the price basically reflect the features. Why Primavera is more expensive? Because the features, they are so fantastic. Primavera was invented for the sake of complex industry like oil and gas and construction, whereas Microsoft Project was invented for multidiscipline industry, not only construction, any field in whatever field in our everyday life, we can use Microsoft Project because it is very simple to use, easily available compared to Primavera, because it is belong to the Microsoft company. Okay, and then well, with regard to the features in Microsoft Project and Primavera, remember, Primavera was invented first, way back in early 1990, when I was at the university. I already learned how to use Primavera in one of the class. But at that time, Windows was not even invented. You just imagine, we used Primavera based on the DOS version. It was very difficult. You need to remember all kind of button in order to do copy paste everything. So then only Windows was invented. When Windows invented late 1990s, Microsoft is not part of the program yet. Microsoft project was came basically way back in 2000, I guess. Then it improved a little bit and and that's why it has some kind of similarity with Primavera, because it, well, normally software is like that. They just simply copy paste based on the whatever come first. All right, but if you want to be professional, then you need to well versed with all those software. Okay, project scheduling technique. You might basically already watch the video that I gave you last week with all kind of quizzes, all those video related to this scheduling technique. The first one is the Gantt chart, and then link bar chart. Bar chart and Gantt chart is basically, they are similar in terms of naming purposes. Okay, naming purposes. So those things are the same actually. Gantt chart or bar chart. But link bar chart and the simple bar chart is different. The differences with regard to one is being linked together, one is basically doesn't have any link. And then network diagram. We do have a few network diagram. Arrow diagram, we call it AOA diagram, AON, and then then later on PDM diagram, put diagram, and even line of balance. Line of balance, it is not really exactly network diagram because it is not being connected in like a diagram itself. It has different diagram, okay, but they are connection. They maybe line of balance is more related to like bar chart, okay. The purpose is to have easy reading purposes. Okay, Gantt chart or bar chart. Okay, perhaps by now you already know the history of Gantt chart, basically taken after the name of that guy, Henry Lawrence Gantt. Okay, I think this guy was a mechanical engineer by profession. Okay, later on he developed those things uh, to be used for his own purposes. Then later on it was very helpful. Then it was being used widely. Okay, even until now. Okay, bar chart have two-dimensional, meaning to say x and y axis. Okay, they consist of activities and then timeline. Okay, timeline. For instance, this is a simple bar chart. You notice that this is the name. The name of activity. You put it a proper name, but for simplicity purposes, we just put 1, 2, 3, or A, B, C, D, whatever, and then you calculate the duration, and then that duration will be reflected in the length of the bar. Okay, in the length of the bar, this is what we call time scale. Time scale. We can always change that time scale according to what you want. You can put into days, weeks, month, year, whatever. And this the left hand side of the bar reflects start, and the right hand side reflect finish. So this is starting time and then finish time of an activity. Okay, but again, if we look at this bar chart, then there is an issue with regard to they are not being linked together. Okay, they are not being linked together, and you do not know activity one, and then does it have immediate relationship with activity three or whatever. Okay, we do not know. Sometimes we do want to reflect those relationship, then we might be basically put line. What kind of line? Example, this one. This is the line. This could be the line. This could be whatever the line. This is what we call the link. Link between bar. So that is the missing thing in a normal Gantt chart or bar chart. Okay. But nowadays, if we are using whatever software, Microsoft and Primavera, those things are being drawn automatically. You don't have to worry about those things. Okay. So now the problem has solved. If you do those things using Excel or whatever normal drawing software, then you will have difficulties. Okay, you notice that this bar chart do have two bar for each activities. What does this thing mean? Okay, this in what we call project terminology. Okay, this one we call it tracking gun. Tracking. Okay, tracking gun meaning to say the bottom, it depends. In Microsoft project, the bottom one would be called baseline, whereas the top one is we call it actual. So, but inside here they call it the bottom one actual. The top one is basically the original or the baseline. So it doesn't matter. It has two bar chart so that you can trace which one is the original. The original will not move, okay, because that is the original plan. The bar will not move, but the actual bar will be moving according to the actual start date and the actual finish date. Okay, then only you can see the differences. Okay, you notice that this is what we call tracking gun. Okay, there are two bar. The bottom one, the black one, is what we call the baseline. Baseline is the original, whereas the top one is the what we call actual. Okay, actual. Then we can see the differences between those things. So if we are using software, you see, notice software can show us very quickly. Once we input the right data, then you get all kind of graphic. You see, that is the purpose of having software, to basically ease our work instead of spending uh, what we call a lengthy amount of time on the computer. By right, you should spend more time at the construction site, whereas the computer will give you all kind of indicator for you to make a quick decision, changes here and there. Okay, advantages and disadvantages of bar chart. Having bar chart nowadays is basically is very helpful because you can see things very quickly. You can see list of activities, and then you can see the bar where it start and where it finish, and then etc. And then later on, with regard to this bar chart, it is you will utilize those things in order to calculate the work progress financially and physically. Okay, that is the basis. How do you draw the S curve? Disadvantages, because it is simply line by line and by line without showing the link. If we are using so-called if we are not using software, then it is very difficult to see the relationship. Okay, but that kind of issue has been resolved if we use the current software, which can do that. Okay. All right. Project network diagram. Project network diagram is the diagram that show that link all the activity from the start until the end of the project. That's what we call network diagram. It is like the spider web. Okay. When you look at the spider web, everything is being linked together. That's what we call network. It is like the internet. The internet basically consists of network. Okay. So similarly, we want to connect all the activity together. Why? Because we want to see the impact of delay. If one activity is delayed, what could be the impact to the next activity or the following activity or even to the overall project duration? So that's why we develop our work program in a network diagram. In terms of network diagram, there are also many type of network diagram available as a scheduling technique and even using different software. For instance, we call it AOA diagram, or sometimes people call it arrow diagram, ADM, arrow diagramming method. This is one of the earlier version of a network diagram being developed way back in 1960s, okay, early 1960s, using a simple arrow and then node relationship, okay. But then there is a word dummy activity. Perhaps I already give you a so-called video about dummy activities, which you will hear again and again when we start developing a AOA diagram later on. Activity on node, AON diagram. Okay, AON diagram come a little bit later. If, for instance, a arrow diagram come in the early 1960s, but this one is come basically late, okay, late 1960s. they do different graphic. Okay, they do draw this diagram by using different graphic, but both basically give the same result, except that AOM diagram later on being further enhanced, then it become PDM diagram. PDM diagram is the one that computer MS project and Primavera and many other software is based on. Okay, so nowadays Microsoft Project and PDM is basically using PDM diagram. Okay, you must understand those things. No dummy activities. We don't need dummy activities in PDM diagram because it is not necessary. The relationship inside the PDM diagram is sufficient enough. It can accommodate different type of relationship. It can reflect whatever things that we wish the reader of our diagram to understand. Okay, so certain definition with regard to activities, event, etc. Activities. Activities is basically the work that you must perform. For instance, what could be the work that you must perform? Site clearing, excavation, piling, tiling, plastering, painting, concreting, formwork. That's what we call the activity. But in computer software, the activity, they use the word task, T-A-S-K. They do not call it activity. Why? Because you must understand, the software was not being designed for the construction industry. It was being designed for many other disciplines. Other discipline might not call it activities. They simply call it tasks or what are the work to be done. So you must understand those terminology. And then event. Event is the what we call the the important, okay, the important things that happen. Example, the start of the project, the end of the project. Okay, the start is what we call the milestone. The start doesn't have any duration for that activity, but it indicate important event. Okay, similarly, you might indicate at in the middle of the project, the end of phase one. That could indicate the important event. People just simply want to reflect, okay, we must completed everything for the sake of phase one, because after this we will start phase two. Okay, so we call it milestone, event, milestone, dummy activity. Okay, dummy activity is normally being used in arrow diagram. It indicate artificial activity. What does artificial mean? Meaning to say it is not the real activity. The real activity mean site clearing, piling, excavating, etc., etc. That is the real activity. But sometimes the issue is that you want to show the relationship. The keyword is here, relationship. What is connecting between one activity and another? Sometimes in a diagram, it is very difficult to show because there are so many activity which is interconnecting line. You might basically have the line tangling with each other and whatnot. So you want to show in a nice way. So sometimes you can create what we call dummy activities. Okay, dummy activity is not a real activity. It also has what we call a zero duration, but because it is not happening during before the event, before the project, at the end of the project, at the beginning of the project and end of the project, that's what we call event. We do not call it dummy. Okay, we call it event. But when we put activities, the fake activities, somehow or somewhere in the network diagram, then that is called dummy activities. But it is normally available in the arrow diagram only. You will see those things once we start going into a network diagram specifically. Now it is just introduction. Two common technique in networking technique. Basically, we call it arrow diagram, and then AON, later on PDM diagram. Okay, just okay. Pause recording. Okay, two common system in network diagram, AOA diagram, and then AON. AON later on will be, we will focus on PDM diagram, because AON is basically a simple diagram. But then once they enhance AON diagram, then they call it PDM diagram, which is now being used in common computer software. Okay. Basic features on network diagram. First is basically we call it arrow, node, logical relationship, path, and then critical path. Okay. In order to draw a network diagram, so these are the things that you need. Okay. Okay. Example. Example of a simple network diagram, AOA diagram. How to draw network AOA diagram first. AOA diagram, you start drawing by putting a small, what we call node. This is what we call node, N-O-D-E. Okay, and then draw an arrow, and then arrowhead, okay, into another node. I might call this one is node 1, and then this is node 2, this is node 3. And then I put activity name, activity 1, activity 2. This is what we call arrow diagram. Why? AOA means activity on arrow. This is arrow, and you will write the name of the activity on top of that arrow. Whatever the name, such as piling, and then stump, for instance, interrelated. So you start with one node, okay, and draw this arrow. This arrow basically reflect activities, but then at the bottom of this arrow, you put duration. You put duration. So it depends on how many days or weeks or month you can put it. Let's say this is 5 days, this is 6 days. So at the end of your calculation, 5 plus 6, meaning to say you will get the number 11. So meaning to say you can complete this activity in 11 days. That's how, that's why you need this diagram, in order to show people, okay, you have two activities. They are interrelated in this minus. At the end of the day, you will know how long it will take to complete all the two activities. Okay. And you notice that in terms of relationship, okay, previous slide telling us about arrow and then node. Number 3, logical relationship. Okay, by looking at this diagram, you notice the beginning of the arrow indicate what we call start. And then this is what we call finish. And similarly, the next activity indicates start here, the left side, and then here indicate finish. And you notice this wording here, finish, start. When activity 1 finish, then immediately activity 2 will basically start. So the relationship name is, we call it finish to start. And based on that concept, AOA diagram is the diagram that use only finish to start relationship. Only finish to start relationship from the beginning of the diagram until the end of the diagram. But when we talk about PDM diagram have 4 types of relationship. So that's why I say to you, PDM diagram is now widely used, because it can accommodate many different diagram. Okay, many different diagram, instead of just not many different diagram, many relationship. Okay, whereas the old one only use finish to start. There is nothing wrong with the old diagram because you can still use that diagram until now if you have a project which basically all using finish to start relationship. There is nothing wrong. In fact, this is much easier type of network diagram compared to the one that we are going to learn in a PDM diagram. It is getting more complicated, okay? But we just simply show you the concept first. At the end of the day, when you become a professional working at the construction site, it is up to you. Whatever, because this thing we simply call tools, okay? Tool that help us in doing, in managing a construction project. And then AOA diagram. Okay, you notice that AOA diagram and AON diagram, even though we can draw something like this, but in terms of drawing, it looks different, but in terms of meaning, they are the same. Okay, for instance, you notice that I just simply focus on this one, activity one. The way to reflect or to draw in AON diagram, just by drawing one box here. Here, this box, activity one, which is similar to the above AOA diagram, but the left side of the box indicates start, the right side indicates finish. See, the whole thing is being simplified by just simply drawing a box, and activity now is inside the node. AON simply means activity on node. But then the issue is that why this one node is a box or square instead of a circle. Previously, a long time ago, when they invented this so-called what we call node, they invented using circle. But then people might confuse. So that's why that node now, for the sake of AON diagram, being shown in the square manners. But again, the activity is inside. This is what we call activity. And the duration, we can draw duration something like this, 5. So meaning to say, start is on the left side of the box, and then this activity will take 5 days and then finish at the end of 5 days. Then the arrow is still here. Still also arrow is available, even though it is not arrow diagram. Now the arrow is basically just to reflect relationship. You notice that activity B, this is activity B, activity 2. Similar to this diagram, we can show something like this. This is the start, this is the finish. And you notice that this wording here indicate FS, finish to start relationship. So that's why arrow is here just in order to show relationship. So we call it logical relationship between two activities. So when you draw AON, normally the whole diagram will be so-called a little bit compressed because you do not have elaborate arrow for each of the activities. Okay, later on we'll take a look at those things. Okay, let's say this is typical arrow diagram. Okay, typical arrow diagram consists of what? What we call activity is being written on top of the bar, but this one is at the bottom, where we can write on the top anyway. And then this is what we call node, consists of node. This is what we call arrow. And they are interrelated together. And then you notice, this is arrow diagram, this is AON diagram. They are similar activities, similar project, but when we write activity inside the node, this is what we call node. This is what we call arrow in terms of relationship. So it is a similar what we call project, except that the graphic looks different. You see, you notice If you draw AOA diagram, it will look like this. If you draw AON diagram, it will look like this. Very neat, because all the activities is inside the box. The arrow is just simply to show the relationship. Whereas the arrow diagram, the arrow itself reflect the activity. The activity. Okay. All right. Okay. Now this diagram. You notice that I have given you a few pages here. How many pages? 3 or 4 pages. 4 pages. Okay, let's go into a simple one. Okay, let's take a look at this. Okay, 4 pages. One is bar chart. One is AOA diagram. And then another one is what we call precedent diagram. We do not learn precedent diagram yet, but you just remember precedent diagram is coming from AON diagram, but it is more complicated. Okay, let's say the way I draw bar chart for activity A is like this. This is one bar, consists of start, finish, and then followed by activity B. Okay, this is what we call timeline. But then how to draw them into AOA diagram? You see, AOA diagram, you just simply draw a circle, reflect start, and then arrow, and then arrowhead, and then another circle, reflect node, followed by arrow, and then close by another arrow. So AB basically reflect the same as in bar chart. How about precedent diagram or AON diagram? Simple AON diagram will look like this. A is one activity. Then after A completed, then B will start. Okay, you see, start to finish. No, finish to start. Relationship is FS. Okay, second, you notice that AB basically concurrent activity running at the same time, start at the same time, and then only C will follow. Okay, C will follow. You see, we can draw something like this. One is for A, a node, and then A, and then one is for B, start and then finish, and then only C will start and then finish. This is how arrow diagram is being drawn. Whereas in precedent diagram, we can start with A, see, A and B. There are two activities starting at the same time, but then C, when C wanted to start, for sure, they will wait for either B will finish last, okay? Then only C will start. So this is the way to draw. So I suggest to you, go through this 4 slides in order to see how to draw this bar chart, because you will need to understand this thing in order to utilize them in other class or even during the exam. During exam, our expectation is that you should be able to draw bar chart, because certain exam will require you to do so. You should be able to draw the arrow diagram and then do the calculation, the analysis completely. And then you should be able to draw the PDM diagram. We are not concerned with AON because AON is just very simple, but our focus is PDM diagram. So you should be able to understand how to draw a bar chart, AOA diagram, and then eventually PDM diagram. Okay, so just go through this thing at your own leisure time to understand the concept. Okay, PERT diagram. Okay, PERT is Program Evaluation Review Technique. Okay, when they develop AON diagram, AOA diagram, then after that, a few years after that, then they develop PERT diagram. PERT diagram was known for Apollo project. Remember this word, Apollo. What is this Apollo? Is it some kind of biscuit or what? Apollo is basically rocket. US launched a rocket to the moon. They say to the moon. I'm not really sure. During 1960s. Okay. when they wanted to develop this project, they used PERT diagram. You see, even big projects such as Apollo rocket launching is basically using all kind of scheduling tools. At that time, the only available tool basically AOA diagram. But they need, the issue with this Apollo project, you are going to the moon, which basically mean nobody have ever go to the moon at that time. So that's how this project is so special. The issue is that, what if, let's say we do have activities, this is what we call activities, but nobody know exactly how long it will take with regard to each of the activity to launch a rocket to the moon. We never know. Okay, so that's why there is a three timing. Three timing, we call it what? We call it optimistic, most likely, pessimistic. Number 4 is optimistic, most likely is 7, and the last one is basically pessimistic. This means the range of time. Normally, in normal activities, we only have one timing. Let's say this is 10 days. That's it. Okay, 10 days. Even that 10 days might not be perfect, but at least that's how we calculate. But now the issue is that what if we do have three possible timing? How to calculate this thing? So even to calculate this thing also, they use formula. Whatever the value for A will time with plus with 4m plus B and divided by 6, meaning to say you are going to get some kind of value with regard to decimal 0, 0, whatever the values. Okay, decimal point. It is not a solid number anyway. So that is the only differences. In terms of calculation, AON diagram will take after the AOA diagram, except that the duration choice will be 3 duration given, not only one. Okay. But nowadays, looking at this scenario, most of the construction project do not really need to use a PERT diagram anymore, due to the fact that we can calculate the so-called timing of each activity, maybe quite accurately, due to the fact that we might have all kind of figures, data available. Okay. Okay. Lastly, on this slide alone, line of balance, LOB. Line of balance being used in the manufacturing industry, but then construction, basically people suggested that thing to be used in the construction industry. There are many things in the manufacturing basically being adopted into the construction for the sake of trying to produce things at a faster rate. But it depends. You can do that in the factory, but not in the construction per se. But people are trying to export whatever the method being used in manufacturing to the construction, to certain, well, sometimes they are successful, sometimes it remains as a concept. Maybe you can study that thing in PhD level, but in reality, people might not basically utilize those concepts. Well, that is the academic world anyway. Okay, how do we do that? You notice that the line of balance diagram will look something like this. This the y-axis that this is what we call the y-axis. This one is a quantity versus timing. Timing meaning to say the project duration, and they are line. Okay, line. There are some thickness. We don't have to put the thickness. Okay, but we can put some kind of thickness. And then we do have a line which is basically sloping line. How do that slope come from? Okay, remember, if we are talking about quantity versus time, you notice that each of the work that we do at the construction industry normally quite repetitive. we do the flooring, we do the wall, we do the piling, we do the column. They are repetitive in nature, repeat after itself, especially when you are building highways, railways, high-rise building, even road, they are the same, isn't it? The work, basically, activity are the same. Even you construct housing in Malaysia, if you go to all kind of housing estate, the house basically look the same. So that's what we call repetitive in nature, repeat after itself. So if, for instance, each other activity, you can relate in terms of the quantity of the floor to be constructed. Let's say one level of floor in a high-rise building, it will take 1 week to complete. Okay, one story in 1 week. So we expect those things repeat after itself. So every 1 week, you will have one story completed. If you do that, then basically you have a relationship. So this is what we call linear line. Linear line. So this is what we call the relationship in terms of the quantity and week. So all of the activity, if we can relate to this kind of linear relationship, we are going to have line after line and after line for almost every activities. Okay, but the slope might not be the same. It depends on how difficult to construct those activity anyway. So that's why we do have different slope for each of the line. And based on that slope, then you can draw lines that reflect activities, and all the activities. But sometimes when you draw the line, let's say between pipe laying and backfilling, you do not want a line intersect at each other. It simply means when you do pipe laying, because pipe laying basically require a longer period of time, much more difficult to do compared to backfilling. Backfilling is just very easy. It can go at a very fast rate. So if you continue with that rate, meaning to say, you do the backfilling even before pipe laying, which is not logic, isn't it? So that's why sometimes you need to adjust. Okay, you basically shift the you delay the start of activity B so that you will wait for all the pipe laying to be completed, then only you will do backfilling. The most important things in this LOB diagram is for everybody to be able to see very quickly. Let's say you draw one line here, then you will know how many quantity of work or even progress, and then how much time required for each of the quantity to be completed. You can know the quantity for each of the activity in a very quick time. That is the purpose of this diagram. And it is not to say once we use LOB, we are not going to have bar chart. We are not going to have PDM diagram. No. We might have bar chart, we might have PDM diagram, and even LOB for this particular project. Because different graphic is meant for different purposes. Okay, so that you understand why there are so many scheduling technique, because it was meant for easy reference. People can relate to when you want to take a look at delay, you have to take a look at the network diagram, because delay will not be reflected in the LOB diagram, or even bar chart is perhaps it's okay, but it is not going to be very clear compared to network diagram. You see, there is a purpose for each of the scheduling technique. Okay. All right. So that is the end of our first topic. So we let me stop recording for